It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for October 13th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, they finally done it. They finally have acquired Activision, and we don't have to talk about it anymore. After today, we still have to talk about it today. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host, the Game Mess Mornings. It's Alex Orcana, everybody. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Feeling good. I had my coffee. I'm ready to move. I have a small child, so I was up pretty early already.
Yeah, I know exactly that life. Except my kids are off school today. They are. They're off school today, so I'm like kind of waking up a little bit later than normal. But and that got me into a bad habit of like I can do things later, and I kept putting things off. So I kind of got the show. I don't even have, like my intro I just did. Everybody, I had to like look at the date on my computer because I didn't actually update it, and everyone knows. If I don't have it in front of me, I will just read whatever the old stuff is.
I was gonna say that you were surprisingly on the fly. When I do my run a show, I'm like Ron Burgundy.
No, me too.
Whatever is written in there, I just read, and then halfway through, someone goes, you said that absolutely backwards. I'm like, well, it's written that way.
One time I started my Game Mess Decides podcast. And I did the entire intro for this show because I brought up this rundown instead, and I didn't realize until it was to the very end that it was wrong. So that's how bad I am normally, but this time I was a little bit more on my toes. Alex, why don't you tell people about yourself, where they where you come from, what kind of work you do, that kind of stuff.
I'm outside. I'm just a smidge out of Chicago. I podcast for NPR of Illinois, Nintendo World Report. I do a lot of writing over there. We have our own podcast, Super GG Radio. Super Good Game Radio is about, we try to beta test games. We try to find, early access games, demo stuff before it comes out. And then we try to like expand upon it, talk about it, talk to devs, or just tell the world about these awesome, weird, crazy games that we play. Yeah,
that's one thing I always notice is like, yeah, you guys play a lot of games, always kind of up to speed on the cool, interesting things that are coming out of nowhere usually.
But that's not. There is a lot of like, okay, this game, I see what they're doing. It's not for me.
Oh yeah, well, totally, yes. It's that's my biggest thing. It's like I get it. I'm moving on. I move on from a lot of games really quickly once I'm like I get it. But Steam Next Fest is happening. You were playing some stuff in there. Anything that stands out that people who are trying to catch up on it? Because I haven't really even had a chance to look at it. Like, what would you recommend to me?
Right now, the one that kind of blew us away recently was American Arcadia, which is as you guys call limboners.
Yeah, it's a limboner.
It's essentially the Truman Show. Your character goes to work, and then turns out his life was like kind of a lie, and it's all filmed. And there's somebody that's like kind of in his ear trying to tell him how to break out. So you're doing like the limbo thing, going left to right, doing the platform jumping and the puzzle solving. And then what makes it a little different is that they break it up by occasionally pulling you out and you're the person in his ear, like first person. Oh, okay, he's stuck behind this thing. I got to figure out how to get into the server room. And it's you walking around, interacting with objects, solving puzzles in first person to get to the server room. And then it goes back to him doing the limbo stuff. And you also get like a little control, like, oh, I need to open that gate before the guards come. And you have to like open the gate from the person's point of view with like an extra like, right bumper, hit square, and that'll open the gate, and then your character can run through. So it does add a little bit like an extra layer on top. Mm-hmm. But it's just another one of those like fun limbo style games.
There hasn't been a million of those yet. Like that, a couple more of those isn't going to hurt anybody. That sounds pretty interesting. Anything else? I knew you were talking about Laika. That's one I played over the summer. The Trials like game where you play as like the wolf or the fox or the cat or something like that on a bike. Yeah. And she has a gun. And she can go in slow motion and shoot the gun. It's actually really cool. I wonder if how you found this demo.
Leica really stood out to me just because that's one I feel like, there hasn't been a Trials game in a while, and I haven't seen anything Trials like in a while. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready for more Trials. But then it throws in like, oh, by the way, if you flip the bike upside down, it can reflect bullets. I'm like, why would you need to? Oh wait, it's roving tribes of anthropomorphic animals, and it's an apocalypse, and the bullets reflect back, and there's a lot of gore.
Yes, it's like surprisingly bloody, and I think it's trying to be affecting because again you're playing this I think a mother character and you're
trying to save her pups who've been kidnapped by like a tribe of evil bikers or something. It's like, what? This is crazy. But then trials it up, like go sideways and like drive upwards of
right. I think one of the things I remember from playing it is like you can jump in the air and fire a shot in slow motion, and then if you do like a full backflip, that reloads your weapon, so then you could fire again. So it's incentivizing you to do these cool like stunts, these wet stunts, so you could take on more enemies. And like, oh, that's clever to kind of it's the Doom Eternal or Doom 2016ification of everything. Of like, get in that ass, like don't stand back, don't be on your heels, like go forward and try to like engage with all the systems as quickly as possible. Bang, 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 so that you could be super offensive. And that's the way to play these games. I'm like, okay, I appreciate that more games are going in that direction. Anything else that you think people shouldn't miss?
That's the two that are standing out for me right now.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a long list. Steam Next Fest being the podcast that just like plays demos and betas and stuff. That list, Steam Next Fest happens, and it's like, okay, here's a list of 15. We're gonna try to each one of us take 5. We're gonna try to figure this out. Which ones are the ones worth it? And talking about it. Yep. And then, it's like, so, but it's funnier because it happened and we were all excited, like, this is for us, this is our thing. And then it's like, oh, we're going to do it 3-4 times a year. And I'm like, crap, that's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, they're doing this again. I feel like the last one just happened. I suppose there are enough video games that you kind of do need a Steam Next Fest this frequently. And they seem they work. They're effective. A lot of people are playing these demos. And it's like, at one point, it's like, oh, demos come out and people are like, don't seem to care. People do seem to care again about demos, and especially ones that are for games that are a little bit further off. They're like, oh, I want to see what's coming down the pipeline. So that's pretty cool. With all these awesome big games that have come out this year, people are still making time for demos for something like Leica.
Didn't you say today, like how many games came out this year or in a year?
I mean, this is a 2022 number, so about 6,000 games per year come out. Yes. That's, on Steam, it's about 35 games a day. That's a lot of video games. So yes,
you go to
exactly.
with the Internet Video Game Database, and you just go to the new releases every day. It's like, okay, here's like 5 to 10 games. Oh, damn. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. It's relentless, and it's
ridiculous with how good this year has been.
Yes.
This year has been so fantastic, and then even like, oh, okay, this game is a top tier AAA game, and it's a 9.5, fantastic, and it's like, oh, here's a tiny indie. This is a 10, weird, but like, how do they stack up? It's even hard to even say that.
Right. Like Cocoon just coming out of nowhere, and it's being like, oh, everyone seems to love this game. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll have to check that out as well.
Summer Games Fest, I was surprised that no one mentioned that one. It was really fun.
Yeah. The Jan was the one that told me about it at Summer Game Fest, Cocoon. So I had my eye on it. Not too surprising that it did well, but it's doing very well. Yeah. All right, we're going to get into all this in a second. First, I just want to address something. On Voicemail Dump Truck yesterday, I made a bet with Jeff Bakalar about the New Jersey Devils versus the Detroit Red Wings. I said if the Red Wings lost, I would wear my New Jersey Devils shirt that I had to buy last year when the Red Wings lost to the Devils. I am wearing it. Bakalar, I think, is traveling to some stupid wedding today or something. So if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this and just tweet this at him, I would appreciate that, because I'm not going to wear it again. So there it is. It's on the record. It's in the show. Everyone could see it. I'm sick of it. It was actually a pretty good game, but I'm still sick of it. All right.
I also want to throw out there that one of the commonalities I've seen is that one of my favorite bands, this band here, and it's actually mentioned by Jeff Bakalar as one of his favorite bands.
Of course. You're in cahoots. I knew it. All right. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Microsoft officially acquires Activision Blizzard nearly 2 years after originally making the deal. This comes from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. Microsoft has officially closed its deal to buy Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. Nice. Making Microsoft's biggest acquisition of all time and one of the largest in the history of the business world across all sectors. The deal faced a good amount of regulatory pressure as Microsoft faced scrutiny from government groups around the world. Key legal battles took place in the United States and the UK. Microsoft announced the deal in February 2022. The announcement of the deal closing came just hours after the UK's CMA itself signed off, and this was the final regulatory hurdle that Microsoft needed to clear to close the deal. A key concern from the CMA centered on cloud gaming, and to help close the deal, Microsoft sold cloud gaming rights to Ubisoft. All the games that are coming from Activision Blizzard in the next 15 years, and those games that exist now, we have those streaming rights in perpetuity, Ubisoft said in its own announcement pertaining to the closure of the deal today. Microsoft is paying Activision Blizzard $95 per share for the buyout. Microsoft's previous biggest acquisition was LinkedIn, which was $26.2 billion, and that was in 2016. Those are all the who, what's, where, whys, and whens of it all. It's closed now. It's over. We're moving past it. Do you feel any different, Alex Orcana?
I feel a little bit of relief that I don't have to hear about it anymore.
Yes, I think we all do.
It's been a long time coming. We all kind of knew it was did you feel like it was really dicey there? I didn't think so. I know that there's opposition, but I never really took it serious.
I think when the CMA was standing in the way and the FTC sued for the preliminary injunction, those two times I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, because in the past, with deals even of, there's not many deals of this scale, but deals similar to this or anywhere near this scale, they haven't really faced this kind of these kind of hurdles before. So it's like, oh, this is unprecedented in terms of the regulators trying to do something to stop a deal like this. So if it's unprecedented, it means we have no way to look back and be like, this is what happens in a scenario like this. And it was like, okay, so anything can happen, really. Even through all that, it's like, it seems likely that it's going to go through. There are definitely episodes of this show where stuff like the CMA blocking it happened, and I was like, who knows? Maybe it's 30% chance it goes through now, but it's like, that's still relatively good, relatively likely that it would happen. Here we are. It kind of ended up going exactly how most people thought, I think, and it just took a little bit longer. As far as what happens next, I think it's going to take some time for them to integrate, but I do expect hey, this is going to look pretty similar to what happened with Bethesda before, where Microsoft's going to probably start putting these games on Game Pass and just hit the ground running as quickly as it can. And hey, now it owns the company that's about to launch Call of Duty. That's they have to consider that a big win. It's immediately this deal's going to start paying off for them. So
as the short term, the problem I have is that if you think about it, Microsoft has not managed their partners that well. It seems like it seems like they're kind of hands off. They're hands off, do whatever you want, and then the games are like, oh yeah, by the way, this game is still 8 years out. And it's like, wait, what? It's
right.
Where Microsoft should maybe be a little bit hands on, because you have now a treasure trove of games that you could Tony Hawk 3 and 4, right? Was it Spyro? Spyro's Activision, right?
Yep, that's right.
You have a lot of things that you could just start getting the teams and start focusing on some of these IPs that you mind. You don't need to again, Call of Duty is the big win, but that is a pretty established situation that you could have on the side.
It's the one that you can be hands off on, right? Because those studios are going to do what they're doing.
It's its own machine.
Yes.
So throwing in a Spyro, throwing in Tony Hawk, throwing some other of these IPs in there, you can get that. You can get a good cash flow going, but you need to start. Then you need to start it. Obviously we don't want to push developers, but you do have to focus them a little bit, because I feel like some of the times they end up getting a little unfocused, and then you end up all over the place.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. There are some of these franchises and development groups that are they make sense to just keep operating as the machine they always were. And as far as Microsoft and investors and Satya Nadella are concerned, I think they're like, oh, hey, wow, King makes a lot of money. Call of Duty makes a lot of money. That is already going to be paying it's going to be paying more than the interest we would have gotten for putting that money in the bank had we just taken $69 billion and put it in some investment or whatever. So it's this already makes sense financially for us. But as far as we're concerned, people from who play games and want to see something positive come out of this, I think you're right that the hope would be that Microsoft could take a little bit of a hard rein on this situation and be like, okay, you have a lot of IP and a lot of studios that previously you were all throwing at Call of Duty. You're throwing more and more at Call of Duty. Can we find some way to make things more efficient or to expand some of these studios back out in other directions to make more games so that people can feel better about Activision than they had before. And I think to do that, you're right, they would have to be more hands-on, more willing to get in there and actually provide some guidance to these studios. I think they're going to be willing to provide money. Money's probably not going to be a problem. That and that's a big part of it. Yeah. But beyond that, they're still going to need that a leadership or that vision. And I'm not sure that vision exists. What do you think?
See, I don't necessarily. I think that again, they need to have at least some coalescence, get together, start making plans, at least point in directions of where we need to go. Again, you give people a little too much, like, okay, just do whatever you want, and then you end up with some crazy stuff, which is like both good and bad. It's just I think that again, if they want to start making money, they should start focusing down on some of these like IPs that they just recently acquired.
Yeah, I mean, we see that for a lot of studios, it does work that hands-off stuff. I think that's how we got Hi-Fi Rush. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was already starting before Microsoft acquired them, apparently. But it's like that happened because there was a Skunkworks team inside of Tango Gameworks. It's like, hey, we have this idea. We're messing around with something. We're going to prototype it. Hey, we think this is really fun. We're going to start building it. And then Microsoft kind of came in around that time and was like, hey, yeah, here's some support, here's some funding to make sure that you can actually get see that through. And we fully support this because we're hands off and you're the creatives. And if you want to do something, we believe in you. Obviously, that has some positives. I think that is something that probably is working at a lot of these studios. Maybe Obsidian being the ideal one over on the Bethesda side of things of, hey, they seem to have a ton of ideas and they are pretty effective at coming up with those ideas and then executing them and getting them out the door. As far as like any of these other teams, it's or like these dormant IP, like they're not going to just naturally happen if you say, hey, everyone work on what you want to work on, or we're going to be pretty hands off, or we trust you. I think you have to take some initiative there. And if Phil Spencer really wants Hexen and Heretic back, he's going to have to maybe like go in there and say, hey, who wants to actually work on this? Can we make someone make room for this? And that will take that guidance that we're talking about. And I don't know how much capacity Microsoft Gaming has to do that because they have a ton of studios already. And it's not like it's not like it seems like, oh, they have the time to micromanage these teams already. And now there's a ton more teams. And so that's going to be possible. And I don't know what goes into this stuff day to day. I don't know if micromanagement is the right answer.
We're not the developers.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I bet a lot of these developers are pretty happy to have the hands-off sort of approach from Microsoft. But again, we're talking about maybe what we want out of this. And in that case, I mostly agree with you where I'm like, I'd like to see just a guiding hand. You don't have to go in there and make every decision for these teams. The people working on the games usually know what's best for the games. But just a guiding hand towards some of these things that we'd like to see back, specifically Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. As far as like, okay, so throughout this whole process, the big criticism and I think rightly so, at least in terms of like let's talk about it and talk it out, was this worry about consolidation and this is going to mean like, hey, a couple companies own all of the video game industry. We've talked about this so much that I'm at a point where I'm like, I just don't feel that. I don't feel like that's what's happened here. But I don't know, maybe you disagree. I think a lot of people do disagree, and I'm willing to hear it. What do you think?
I think the bigger companies are always going to be trading back and forth. This company owns this company gets bought out by this company. I mean, how often has it been that a company gets bought out, then split off, right? Didn't that happen with Destiny and Bungie, right? Bungie got bought and then split off into their own separate team.
Yeah, but Microsoft bought Bungie, then Bungie bought themselves away from Microsoft, and then they were independent, and they worked with Activision for a long time, and then they stopped working with Activision, and then now the Bungie's now owned by Sony, not PlayStation. They're owned by Sony. Yes, that right. These things are, you're right. They ping pong back and forth a lot. And I think
that people who want to do something super creative and unique will split off and do their own separate thing. We talked about Cocoon, right? Cocoon was some of those guys from the Limbo team, and it's like, oh, okay, you split off, started a new studio, and you started something separate now. So it's like, okay, there always will be these branches, people splitting off and wanting to do something a little bit different than what they're being pigeonholed as, especially when they get bought out by the big machine, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony. But I think that there's room, obviously, for people to branch off and leave, and there'll be ebbs and flows of it all. we're not at a point that there is like a giant consolidation yet.
Yeah. I think it's easy to look at what's happening in movies and music and be like, that's happening in gaming. And it is trying to happen in gaming. Like the same urges of capitalism that caused a handful of companies to just pick winners and losers in music, or to control all of movies, and Disney owning so much of what is successful at the box office. Those same compulsions are driving a lot of the stuff that's happening in gaming. But gaming has had these key moments of the democratization of tools happening at the same time as the democratization of platforms, and that's, Steam being the key one there. Could put a game, anyone could put a game on Steam. And not just that, Steam has done a good job of enabling just about any game to have a chance to succeed, to the point where many of the big games that have popped up out of that came out of nowhere to be major successes, industry-defining successes, they came originally, at least the idea did, out of Steam. I mean, obviously, one of the recent ones being the Battle Royale, where it's like, hey, that's happening in the mod scene in games on Steam, and now someone's like, we're gonna do a standalone one of these PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and it's gonna have 2 million concurrent players, and that's from some studio out in Korea, and it's just gonna pop up out of nowhere. And it's like, that can happen in gaming, and it doesn't really happen in movies and music and a lot of other mediums, where it's like, oh, the biggest thing in the world can come from someone from just completely out of nowhere, without the backing of some major corporation that's already been established in that field. That is like one of the key things that makes gaming different, and why whatever's happening with Activision is sort of immaterial to the overall dynamism of gaming. And then when you do look at Activision itself, like you were saying, I think that the people who are a part of this deal, who are going from working at Activision to now being under Microsoft Gaming, many of them have like stock. They hold stock in Activision that is now going to be worth a lot. It's going to be bought by Microsoft. That stuff's going to vest over time, and they're going to be able to leave and either take that money and start something, or be like, hey, I worked on Call of Duty for a really long time. What's the investment environment like? And probably be able to get some investment and start their own studio and start this process over again, where it's like, hey, we're going to start a studio because I know that there are companies like a Microsoft out there, or Tencent, or whoever else that one day might buy my studio, and that's going to make the investment I put into it now worth it, because there's this obvious exit. And so this is the way the system is supposed to work. I don't know if it's a great system overall. I feel like it's probably not the best system, but it's the one we have, and if this is the one we're going to have, this is the way it's going to work. So I think
that's a thing, though. People will start a business to sell a business, right?
Yes.
Start a business, sell a business, start a business, sell a business. It's very similar. The major thing for us is that, will we continue to get good games out of it, good experiences out of it? And that's what's important. And obviously, like you said, the mod scene, there's no way that can like really be taken kind of away from us. The one thing I will say is that, like, the music industry, what is it? Didn't somebody buy it? It wasn't SoundCloud, was it?
It was Bandcamp. Epic bought Bandcamp, yes.
And that's what I mean, though, is that one, we just, like, that one was where, okay, independent people could just put out whatever they want, and then someone, like, big corporate entity bought that, and we're like, no, that's not, and a lot of people were upset about that.
Yes, yeah.
So that's like someone buying the ability to mod. What is the major mod website?
Nexus Mods.
Is that owned by somebody? Like,
I think it's owned by the people that started Nexus Mods. You're right. It does feel like someone's going to come through and buy that eventually or something.
Yeah, we got to protect Nexus Mods.
Okay, so like we're talking about, hey, we hope we get more games. Do you think that it's more likely that we get more interesting games from an Activision that was independent, or an Activision that's owned by Microsoft?
Microsoft, absolutely. Well, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I can say that
that's what you feel. Yes,
we haven't gotten that many right when they were independent.
Right. I mean, we're getting fewer and fewer, right? We get fewer and fewer.
It's been a while.
And the things that they do take chances on is stuff like Overwatch 2. And yeah, okay, hey, listen, they did a great job on Diablo 4, but it's like, these are the ones, like, of course you should be making a Diablo 4. Where are the risk-taking games? And it's like, those have, as far as when I glance over at Activision, it feels like all that is evaporated. The risk-taking games just aren't coming out of it. And I'm not saying that suddenly it's a light switch that's going to get flipped and Microsoft's going to be taking a million risk-chancing games, but I think that's slightly more likely it would happen under Microsoft. I agree with you. I don't know if that's like a justification for it or anything like that, but I do feel like the possibility of us getting more games is a little bit better under Activision. The other thing I feel better about, and this is, let's continue with the next story here. Activision Blizzard Bobby Kotick will remain as CEO just until the end of 2023. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Activision Blizzard's long-serving boss, Bobby Kotick, will remain as CEO just until the end of 2023, following Microsoft's acquisition of the Call of Duty publisher. Kotick will report to Microsoft's head of gaming as they do this transitionary period. And he says, I have long said that I am fully committed to helping with the transition. Phil has asked me to stay on as CEO of ABK, reporting to him, and we've agreed that I will do that through the end of 2023. So we are talking a matter of weeks. Like, this is weeks from now. He's going to be gone. And to be clear, he is going to get a lot of money. He is going to get $500 million or somewhere close to that. Just from this deal alone, on top of all the money he's made from bonuses and from his pay and from stock options previously. So it's golden handcuffs, 100 golden parachute, whatever it is, 100%. Of course it is, but he is responsible for many of the toxic environments that existed under Activision and Blizzard, or he should take responsibility for it at the very least. And now he will be gone, along with many of the people from the board who put him in position and supported him, and the kind of people that he was hiring that did create these toxic environments. They're also leaving. This is a good thing, a better thing for Activision, I think, than what the alternative of letting them continue going and be like, hey, we're worried about consolidation. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but I'm more worried about Bobby Kotick being in charge of Activision. So him being gone feels like a small moral victory, right?
Yeah, we need to get him out of there. He's been a problem.
Yes.
There's been problems there, and he is very much a part of it, or at least, again, someone that is under your charge. You are in charge, and it all of this a lot of bad stuff has been happening. You need to start answering for it and getting them out as soon as possible. Obviously, the end of the year is like a transition period, right? You have to like hand over the keys. Where's this? Where's that? How is everything kind of run? And then okay, bye-bye.
Yep, exactly. Yes. And I think that Microsoft's not some perfect place to work, but by all accounts, it is a slightly better place to work. And if we're worried about the people actually making these games, that's something. And I don't think it's any reason necessarily to go take a victory lap, although I kind of want to, because I really wanted Bobby Kotick on. Nobody liked that guy. Everybody who's ever worked with him has had nothing but bad things to say about him, doesn't really care about the games, doesn't really care about the products they produce, just cares about the money, and that's his job, whatever. But I don't give a fuck about his job. I care about there being people being feeling good about making good games, and that seems, again, slightly more possible under Microsoft. We're talking about fractions here, 5% better here, something like your life gets 10% better there, or something like that. That's still measurable and something, and I think worthy of pointing out. Do you think there's a chance that Bobby Kotick comes back into gaming at any point in the future? Because I'm like, I could see it, but I don't know. What do you think?
Unless he does something of his own independent, I feel like, I think his reputation's pretty rough right now. You give it 10, 15 years and maybe like people start to forget about all the bad things he did and someone lets him do some sort of, direction. But I feel like I think that he won't be like the head of a major company anymore. Not a major one.
Him and John Riccatello are going to start a podcast. That's going to be the future. That's the future I want. God, that sounds like a nightmare. But then they would do a super team and go out there and start their new studio or whatever, new publisher.
People will run to sign up. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think had he gotten out a couple years ago, like when he could have jumped on the buzzwords of Web3 and NFTs and now AI. I think maybe he could have done something there, but like, hey, I'm starting the new Web3 AI NFT studio, and people probably would have been like, "Here's a bunch of money," but most of that stuff is past. And AI little bit.
Put him under a company that doesn't know a whole lot about gaming. Oh, Amazon wants to do an NFT game. Okay, Bobby Kotick. There you go.
Yeah, I kind of could see Amazon like, let's bring in Bobby Kotick to oversee our gaming initiative. He seemed like
he did a pretty good job over there, and it's like, oh, you don't pay attention to gaming news, huh?
Exactly, and they definitely don't. Amazon definitely does not. All right, I think that probably does it for this topic, and I mean that in a probably does it for good. And now we could just enter this new world where Activision is Microsoft. Again, I don't think that world looks all that different from the world we have now. I hope the ways it does look different, it means we do get like a Crash Bandicoot 5 or whatever. That would be nice. Like, you think of it, it's pretty absurd at a certain point, right? Like, these government agencies coming down to bear and $69 billion and all of this effort and armies of lawyers on Microsoft's side and on Activision's side. And it's like, I think it would be nice if we got a new Crash Bandicoot game. The Bandicoot that wears jorts. That's what matters to me, Alex Orcana.
Chain wallets.
Chain wallets. That's the thing that actually is going to move the industry.
They need to hop on the hot new trend of brawlers and make an Activision brawler. You have enough character. No, I'm not, because there's too. Those are all failing right now anyway.
Did you someone made like a faux brawler screen a shot
really?
Of like here's what the roster would look like, and I'm still like, man, this looks like trash compared to Smash Brothers. Like, man, Nintendo's got is like really special sauce over there where it's like, oh yeah, all these characters in there, that makes sense. And then you look at even with Microsoft and Bethesda and Activision, all these stuff put together, it's like, I'll pass. I'm good.
There was the Nickelodeon one, and then there was the Warner Brothers one.
Yeah, Multiverses. No, that's coming back still, Alex. Don't worry. Any day now. Any day now. Man,
a friend of mine, they took his money, and he couldn't play it because it was only US. And he was in Japan.
Listen, that early access, hey, beta. What happens in beta stays in beta, including your money.
That's how it works.
Man, that's a wild one. Where it's just like
they just went into early access and then said, "Okay, we'll be back."
They released the game. They released that game, and then they're like, "No, secretly, no, we were in beta. I don't know what you guys talk about. Fuck you, we were in beta," and then they just took it away. That's wild.
We'll be back in what was it, like a year or something? They said, "Oh yeah."
They said, I think early next year. I have no idea. I mean, I bet they will do it because otherwise they're probably going to get a class action lawsuit. But yeah.
Well, the other part is who's going to remember? Like, oh wait, I forgot that this game existed. It's like, no, you had what do they say? You only get one shot to release a game, and they technically did.
Yep. If that game comes back, they better do super right by the people who actually paid money for it, because otherwise they're going to be in some deep doo-doo, deep dog shit over there. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, a lot more news. Best Buy apparently dropping physical media, things like that. We'll talk about all of that right after this.
My co-host is asking for a new Skylanders game.
Oh yeah, well we're back. So what Skylanders game is he asking for? He
wants a new one. He bought all the toys.
That's when I could see Microsoft hopping into, because I think the family game market is one that they would really get a lot of mileage out of on Game Pass, and I just don't know how a Game Pass meshes up with a Toys to Life game, right? Because I suppose you give people the game and you let them play around with a lot of it as part of Game Pass, and they're like, hey, if you want to have even extra stuff, go buy the toys. I could see them maybe doing that, but I don't know if it's do you think a toyless Skylanders could work?
Well, I mean, again, you just have an account, right? You make an account, you scan in, right, and then it shows up in the game. I think you could do that. That's pretty easy. But at the same time, Skylanders does have. I think they probably have an established lore at this point. Spyro is in Skylanders.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spinoff of Spyro, the Skylanders games. That's.
I didn't realize it was actually a full spinoff of it.
Oh yeah, that's how it's. I think it's basically how they first pitched it originally, and then that changed really quickly. But yes, it was like a Spyro spinoff. I think that the family game stuff, Crash will be there, Spyro will be there, but Skylanders seems like the right one that, hey, you could get kids into this again, but. I don't know. We'll see. All right.
I mean, people still like those. Was it the ones where you rip the cord and it's this top?
I'm going to say Bakugan, but that's not it. Beyblades. There it is.
Beyblades are back again. So I think the Toys to Life situation is real. You could do it.
Beyblades should be the way that we solve all the world's problems. So remember Robot Jocks? It's like instead of wars, we're going to have these two robots fight. We should just do that with Beyblades.
Biden and Trump just getting ready to rip.
Exactly. Me and Mike Minotti, instead of fighting on our podcast, we'll just do Beyblades. All right. There's a rumor that Best Buy is apparently dropping physical media in 2024. This is from My Nintendo News. A rumor is currently circulating online that the popular North American retailer Best Buy will no longer stock physical media such as games, Blu-ray discs, DVDs, and CDs starting in 2024. Physical sales at the retailer could stop from the first quarter of next year, which would be a major blow for gamers and collectors. If the move from Best Buy proves to be true, then other stores could follow suit. As we all know, digital is now the prominent form of game sales. Mostly. Presumably due to the convenience of it, Best Buy has yet to announce the move, so it is currently marked as a rumor for now. I think, yeah, sure, this is a rumor, but we see this happening. If anyone's been in a Best Buy over the last several years, and if you were there, 10, 15 years ago compared to today, it has naturally shrunk, and it's going to continue to shrink, right?
What is a Best Buy without physical goods? Like, that's kind of the point.
I mean, it's where you go to buy your washing machine, I think. I think that's kind of it. Yeah. That's weird, but yeah.
Most people just like, oh, I'm gonna go buy my TV at Costco, and it's like, okay, that's weird. I recently went to one for like the first time in a decade. I went to like a Costco, and I was like, holy crap, you could just buy a giant gaming PC and a gaming chair, and then also watermelons. Weird.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Best Buy's more. There are more Best Buys in more places than Costco. Like Costco is like going to be the one big store every so often, and then Best Buys are like, yeah, you can have one of those per town or something like that. So it's like I suppose when people think about I'm going to go buy a refrigerator, I think Best Buy actually does come to mind first for me.
Okay,
and that's probably what they're thinking. Like, hey, I guess we're gonna have to like really turn into that hard.
Warehouse situation.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, okay, what's the alternative here? For movies and music, I don't see much of an alternative. I don't see them like being like, hey, we could be this boutique place and make things happen. But I think with games, the people who buy physical games, first of all, they are spending more per game than anyone was ever spending on music or movies. So it's someone who is like willing to come in and spend a little extra, and there's something there. And it's like, well, maybe if you could stock more of these collector's editions or really rare physical games and stuff like that and make them feel like events, there's probably something they could do. But for Best Buy, that's like, they are a broad retailer. They to be in the specific, we're going to provide a bespoke physical gaming experience for you, is out of their wheelhouse. It's not really their core competency. So I think them being like, the answer here is actually to slowly back away from this stuff rather than try to figure out a way to make it work, and that's probably going to fizzle out. That's probably right. That said, I do think of all the physical media at a Best Buy, music's already gone, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
it's been for a bit,
right?
Yeah.
The movie aisle probably will go away. But I think video games will still be there probably for the next couple of years, at the very least, at least through the end of this generation. Because people are still buying a lot of physical games. Not as much as they used to, but they still buy a lot of physical games. And I don't think Best Buy is going to necessarily just give that up because they're like, well, this is a bad time, we're going to move on. But I'm someone who's moved on from physical mostly, and this still bums me out a big time. Because a lot of the... I don't know, a lot of like the work that happens in terms of archiving this stuff and taking care of games and making sure that they are preserved. A lot of it's happening for people who love physical games, keep them, and then do back them up online for shitheads like me. So it's like, yeah. I've moved on, and I know I'm part of the problem, but I never wanted physical games to go away. Like I do not want that. So this saddens me, but it does feel inevitable. How do you feel about it?
I think it is inevitable. I'm one of those people that are fighting it a little bit. I do buy a lot of games physical, despite, if I get a code or something like that, but I'm still like, I'm also one of those people that also resells them, which isn't like good either. But like the ones that I keep are the one, I do have like a little bit of a collection of just like, okay, this series is the series I really like. Like a Star Ocean or a Final Fantasy. I'm like, I'm going to get these games. I'm going to have them. I'm not really going to resell these. I'm just going to keep them for whenever. But like recently I went to try to buy them like a TV series. Cause I'm like, I don't really want to subscribe to this other, like, I don't want to get another subscription. I'm going to find this old TV series, Blu-ray. And it's like, where do you get those anymore? Because even like Target only hosts like whatever is like new, and then they get rid of it. And it's like, well, okay, then how do I get something old now? And it's really like, well, Amazon, I guess. That's like really like the move. And living in the city, there's not a Walmart for a while, like at least 30 minutes from a Walmart. So I'm just like, I don't know where I buy like old television shows that I'm looking for specifically. And Best Buy comes to mind, yes, but it's like, well, now this very much could be out the door. Yeah,
if I was trying to buy an old TV show, like there's an old CW kind of cheesy show that I liked, Everwood. Okay. It was done by the guy that would go on to do like Arrow and all those DC superhero shows on CW or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'd try. They only ever put the first season on DVD, so I'm like, okay, piracy, just gonna have to go pirate it. Like that's what And at a certain point, it's like. At a certain point, that stops feeling like piracy, and it becomes like the internet is a library at a certain point where it's like I am just basically borrowing this from the ether because I want access to it, and you are providing no way to do that. And that is like, that's coming hard for movies right now, where like the old movies, old TV shows, like you said, those are the ones that feel like they are going to be lost media more and more frequently here very soon. And there is no obvious solution other than archive.org doing God's work. And I do worry about that with gaming as well. The Switch has 16,000 games, and eventually Nintendo's going to turn off those servers, and not all of them. A lot of those were digital only, and that's its own problem. But the problem will be solved by backing these things up in places like Archive and in torrents and things like that. And I know these big companies hate hearing that, and I'm like, fucking do something about it. But they don't have any solutions. So I think we have to keep finding our own, which is frustrating. But what's the alternative here? So
I'm not the guy that spent $100 on a Vita memory card because that's how much they were. And then like when I found out the store was like, oh, you can't get your Vita games anymore. Well, I better pay $110 for this Vita 64 gig card and then load up all the games that I have and that I really want to play again and just have it there forever, so I never have to access the servers again. That wasn't me. And same thing with the 3DS.
The completionist video where he bought all of the was it the 3DS and Wii U games or whatever? And I'm like, imagine doing that for the Switch. Those 16,000 games, like that would be a several years long project probably to do all that. So I hope it does
lead to like the existential question. Like I've always thought about, like we're going to be the last generation with nostalgia, just because old stuff is everywhere now and always accessible, and it never used to be. So we always like, oh, remember this, and with kids now, it's like, hey, remember that song I listened to like 20 minutes ago because I have access to it always?
Yep. Yeah. And there's the convenience factor is compelling. That's why this stuff moves the way it does. But obviously it's a trade-off. Obviously we are losing something in this process. And
I saw Best Buy going under though almost sooner because we had one of the few like Fry's Electronics, which is big in California.
Yeah.
We had one and it shut down entirely, and that was bummed because that was like computer components, like, I'm going to buy a graphics card and the power supply, and now I don't. That's all again Amazon and other websites, and I'm like, well, I would rather go to a place and pick it up, and there's not a whole lot of those left.
Yeah, we must protect Micro Centers, everybody. Micro Centers is my store, although the one here in Cleveland's on the other side of Cleveland, so I actually haven't been out to there yet. But the one in Columbus I would go to all the time. Even the one in Denver. All right, let's keep moving here. Xbox Series S starter bundle includes 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate for $300. This is Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. Ahead of the holiday season, Microsoft has announced a new Xbox hardware bundle. The Xbox Series S starter bundle, as it's called, is aimed at people new to the Xbox ecosystem. The $300 bundle comes with a 512 gigabyte Xbox Series S and 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. The new bundle launches October 31st through the Microsoft Store and retailers across the globe. I'm surprised it's taken them this long to include something like 3 months of Game Pass with the Xbox Series S. That always felt like a no-brainer, right? You put that in there, give people not just a taste, but like make them reliant on Game Pass to the point where it's like, well, once it goes away, and it's hard to live without now. And even 3 months feels like maybe you could do like 6 months or something like that. But whatever, 3 months that's fine. This is Microsoft also positioning some new package of Xbox against these slim PS5s. Do you think this is compelling to people who are not in the Xbox ecosystem at the moment?
I'm currently not in the Xbox ecosystem, and I saw this and be like, I could probably get me one of those.
Okay, yeah, well, all right, yeah. So and it's like, again, it's a matter of degrees, right? Where it's like, maybe you're 5 to 10% more likely to pick it up. But that's a lot of people over time. I don't know. Is this something where if a big game drops next year, is this the one you would go get? We're like, oh, hey, I can get that on Xbox and play it on Xbox Series S and have it on Game Pass, so I don't even have to spend anything extra. And $300, I'm all in on the system, and I get the game. So is this the one you would get?
Absolutely. I think that, again, I have been a physical person in most of my gaming, and I think that the Xbox Series S would be the one where I'm like, okay, well, at least this is all Game Pass. I'm not going to buy any games like physically for this device. And then it's like, okay, well, The Xbox ecosystem is now digital only, so they've just moved me now into a digital only future. But at the same time, I mean, Game Pass is Game Pass, right? You got all the hot, like both all of the like some big titles, and then also throw in like the tiny indies that are just like breakout hits, and it's okay. This is a good deal, and this will get me there.
It feels very specifically aimed at people who are maybe way more casual than you are, because this is the 512 gigabyte model. There is a 1 terabyte Xbox Series S that's $350, but they are not including that in this. There is no bundle for that with 3 months of Game Pass. So it's like, man, doesn't it come with like a month of Game Pass? It might. Honestly, I would say, I would guess 2 weeks, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
I do miss the deals you used to be able to get for like, oh, this is like $30 for like, a lot, like six months of it. I used to buy a bunch of those.
I mean, the $1 deal for Game Pass was one that was popular for a while. I wonder if this like moves the needle that much for Microsoft, but I will say that this is moving in the right direction. I think bundling Game Pass with the hardware is probably the right thing to do for Microsoft to get people excited about the hardware. Something that has been sort of up and down for them, especially this year where they haven't had a lot of games until Starfield. That Xbox hardware sales were kind of like they were going down compared to the year before. So I think reminding people that, hey, this is just an all-in easy package might effectively help them reach out to people who are like on the sideline when it came to Xbox itself.
You got to have an answer for the PlayStation Slim, right?
Yes, I think this is what it is as well. Yes, I think so. And they don't intend to do a Pro model, and they don't seem to have, and they also kind of said they're like, hey, no, the Xbox Series S is already kind of our Slim. So I think them finding new ways to package this stuff up, obviously adding more storage to the Xbox Series S and putting that as a black model, that was also part of this.
I mean, to be fair, it's prettier.
Yes,
than the PlayStation.
I like both. I like both a lot. I do.
You like the weird pop collar?
I do. Yes, I do think it's ugly, but in an interesting way that I find appealing. It's that scene from American Hustle where Jennifer Lawrence is talking about the nail polish and how it smells rotten, but you can't stop smelling it. That's how I feel about the PS5. But again, I get why people don't like it, because obviously it's rotten. It is. All right, I'm going to skip this. We'll talk about this real quick. Tekken 8 was delayed to avoid Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1. Do you think that makes sense? I think that probably makes sense. I don't know how much. I don't know how likely it was ever that game was going to come out this year. I bet it was something along the lines of, hey, we could maybe get that game out this year, but look at what's coming out. Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1. You know what? Let's just actually release it like next year, like we kind of always were. It's probably the right call, though, right? Those are the big boys in the fighting game scene. You might as well, even if you're Tekken, you might as well just wait a little bit longer and come out next year, right?
The space is crowded right now.
Yeah,
it's a real heavy space, and it's what people are taking sides. Of course, I'm more of a Street Fighter person. I'm more of a Mortal Kombat person. It's very rare you hear that. Well, I'm the Tekken person. I mean, of course, there are people who prefer it over all the other ones, but when you have the two main sides coming out, give it a break. Come back, and it'll be better for your sales.
Yeah, Harada-san reveals that Tekken 8 was initially set to launch in summer 2023, but that they decided to delay the game 2 years ago after learning that this would mean going up against another fighting game he doesn't want to say the title of, probably Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1. And Sean in chat, who's a FGC freak, mentioned that Harada's talked about, hey, let's spread these out so that there's always something for the fighting game community to get excited about, because that helps out all fighting games. And I think that's proven correct so far. And I think the momentum that's been created by Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1 this year could easily carry forward to a Tekken 8, and I would like to see that happen.
The fighting game community has really been invigorated.
Yes,
so I think
absolutely.
Let's keep that wave rolling, right? Let's throw in a Soul Calibur sometime. We're good to go.
All right. EA's soccer series expands into a new genre. This is from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot. EA's hugely popular football/soccer series, EA Sports FC, formerly known as FIFA, is expanding into a new genre. EA has announced EA Sports FC Tactical, the franchise's first turn-based strategy game for mobile. Basically, you're gonna collect your players and move them around the field in a turn-based way. And I think it's just going to be normal soccer, but turn-based. And Alex, I think I would really like this if they made it like super silly. Like if like you could have if you could like put up barriers or whatever, like big inflatables, like a paintball field or whatever, and you're like sneaking around and doing stealth soccer. I think that would be cool. If it's just regular soccer fields and regular soccer players, I'm not like too excited about this, but I don't know. How about you?
I'm trying to look up right now. What was the Blood Bowl? You ever heard of Blood Bowl?
Yeah. Blood Bowl was
the tactical, like almost turn-based football game, and I think that you could do a very similar thing. Where soccer, and Blood Bowl was like the next iteration of like where like you're monsters and you can like bribe the refs and kill the other players and stuff like that. I think that this could very well this could do something again a little more silly, right? Get experience, level up, give me a skill tree for my player.
Yes, exactly. Make it XCOM soccer, but even sillier, I think, is what I want. And maybe the possibility is there, but they're going to have licensed teams and licensed players from Premier League and Bundesliga and stuff like that. So the soccer freaks out there will be well served again.
Give them some specialty moves, right? Fill a special meter.
Exactly. Yes, there you go. I want several different meters to fill up. That's real gaming to me. Okay, let me bring in this real quick. There we go. The next story is Call of Duty Mobile adds a cat that turns into a gun. It's finally happened, Alex. We finally have reached peak video games. Call of Duty Mobile, you can play as a anthropomorphic cat who has a cat that runs alongside you, and then when it's time to fire, the cat transforms into a sniper rifle, and people who are watching the video are seeing this.
Can we talk about the Fortnite-ification of Call of Duty?
I mean, it was inevitable, right? Because the way that these games are going to succeed, as live service games, especially Call of Duty Mobile, a free-to-play game, is you got to sell shit to people, and people want to buy wacky stuff. They want to show. I mean, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't paid attention to Call of Duty in a while, but I have a friend that plays religiously. Last game, it was like the anime Attack on Titan. Like Titans are in there, Godzilla's in there, and then all of a sudden she gets killed by Snoop Dogg. It's like, wait, what is happening? Now it's Nextlander shooting laser eye beams with Nicki Minaj. It's like, wait, why is all of this? They put in this. Have you heard of Hellsing, the anime from the 80s?
It's just
doesn't matter because it's hot and it's the new anime character in Call of Duty. Wait,
yeah.
what?
Yes, this is the one that Christian was yelling at me about. Yes, I've heard about Hellsing, and I say that.
Like 5 other people watched Hellsing, and apparently one of them works on Call of Duty. Weird.
Do you the design of that Hellsing character in Call of Duty? How do you feel about it? Is it good or is it up to your standards?
It looks pretty solid compared to the anime, yes. But it's just strange about why anybody would care about Hellsing in 2023. And now a cat that turns into a gun is a pretty solid move.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the thing that makes it difficult for a lot of these live service games to make sense over time. Is, hey, you could make a really cool thing like a Last of Us Factions that probably plays fantastic. It probably is a really solid game that people are really going to enjoy playing. But are you going to have a intrinsic incentive built into the game to show off your fun cosmetics, and then will the fun cosmetics fit in, and do the developers want to like reach out and do the work to license stuff? And it's like, well, that starts to not make a lot of sense for a Last of Us game, especially one that supposedly was going to move the story along. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's probably not going to work as well. Call of Duty is like, we have to make this work because that we are competing with Fortnite, and that's the option. I guess I played Fortnite, recently, and was like surprised to see how many other people use sort of the Fortnite original skins, not stuff that were licensed. Like we go and play and we're like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we were all John Cena? And it's like, yeah, that's a lot of fun. But like the kids, I think, are like, oh, I'm going to be this original Fortnite character instead. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you're spending enough time in here that this is the IP that you care about. But most of these games would struggle to do that. Like you can only sell so many army men soldier skins in a Call of Duty, I think.
I was going to say is that most people who were really big in it for the military aspect have left long ago. I think that they've moved on to a lot more. Obviously, I know people who still play Battlefield and talk about how amazing it is and still going strong and how, they really made it good again. And it's like, really? Okay. I was not aware that was still a thing. Like I thought it had kind of died on the vine, but people are still playing it like religiously. So Call of Duty has no other option. I have also 2 very young nephews, and I ask them, they're playing Fortnite like for like 2 hours. I'm like, oh, which character are you going to play? And they're like, I'm the banana. And I'm like, not Not Ripley. Who?
yeah,
No.
exactly.
Not Mike Lowry from Bad Boys. I don't know who that is. Okay.
But I do want to get the crew together and have all of us be Nicki Minaj in Call of Duty. I do desperately want to do that.
Again, you got to unlock the hot lander something from The Boys where you could shoot lasers out of your eyes.
That's Homelander, yes.
Homelander,
yes. Yeah. All right, let's do a Sonic Superstars review roundup. Game is coming out soon still. The reviews are coming in as well. On Metacritic, at the time of when I put this together, it was at 74. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10, said while the campaign is still enjoyable, Superstars multiplayer component are far worse options than anything in past Sonic games. Wow. Like digging emeralds out of the rough, Sonic Superstars' new ideas end up feeling like a mix of both interesting and ill-advised, making it an amusing Sonic game, but not exactly a super one. Good Luck Have Fun at Sports Illustrated gave it a 9 out of 10, said Sonic Superstars is the modern 2D Sonic game I never thought we'd get. It updates the visual style in a way that feels true to the classics while bringing in top-tier level design that allows the core platforming mechanics to shine. In a week when both Sonic and Mario are launching new games, it's a good time to be a 2D platforming fan. And then VGC gave it a 4 out of 5. Ultimately, Sonic Superstars is a game designed to appeal to a very specific type of Sonic fan, also known as perverts. I might have added that part myself.
I'm a Sonic pervert.
I love to hear it. The type of player who maintains that the 16-bit era was the best and will happily boot up Sonic 2 for a quick whirl to this day, 3 decades later. If you treat Sonic Mania as something of a remix project, then Sonic Superstars feels the closest we've come to a completely new Mega Drive/Genesis era Sonic game since Sonic and Knuckles. It's short and not all of its optional gimmicks are great, but where it matters, the look, the sound, the physics, it absolutely nails that early 90s feeling, and oh, how great it is to finally have that feeling again. Alex, I know that you don't have a copy of this game, but you and I both played this at Summer Game Fest. You are a Sonic fan. What'd you think of when you played it?
I thought it is definitely a throwback to the 16-bit era. It does feel a lot like that. But they also threw in a lot of optional extra mechanics, which can be fun to play in, but at the same time, it also slowed Sonic down. And that's where I was like, okay, I think I like them, but I also just really want to go fast. And I feel like this is stopping me.
Interesting.
But at the time, again, the Summer Game Fest, they even said they're like, we still have a whole bunch of patching to do and a lot of like other stuff to update. So we're still there. We're working on it, but yeah, I thought it was interesting. I still, really like Sonic. What was it? The remix project.
Sonic Mania, yes.
Yeah, Sonic Mania is still the gold standard for me.
Yeah. I want more. I was making eyes at the camera because whenever I talk about Sonic, I'm like, yeah, anytime you hit a wall and it stops you, it's not fun anymore because Sonic's fun when you're going fast. And the game, like, it always tries to throw things in your way. Like, wouldn't it be fun if you stopped and did this instead? It's like, fuck no. This is terrible.
Sonic Superstars does something very similar where he like gives you abilities now. Okay, I could swim up a waterfall and turn into a fish. It's like, sure.
Yeah, that's right. The fish thing. That's right. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
I guess that could be fun.
I'm willing to give this game a chance, mostly because I have to. Because I said I would play it before new Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Yeah, I'm gonna play through this game here pretty soon, and I'll see what I think, and I'll be good at Sonic, so everyone can just shut up about that, and we'll see what happens.
I'm very curious.
Yep, me too. 74 for Sonic though. That seems pretty good for a Sonic game. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do the poll from last episode. Who would you give the biggest flower bouquet to? And Alex, I want your answer. Would you give the biggest flower bouquet to Princess Peach, Elephant Peach, Bowsette, or Waluigi?
Oh no, that's outing me a lot right there.
So Bowsette, huh? Yeah, let's go, baby. It's my answer too.
It's Bowsette or Elephant Peach. One of those things.
9% said Elephant Peach, 18% said Princess Peach, 31% said Waluigi, and 41% said Bowsette. There we go. Our fellow pervs.
Stay away from that subreddit.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, listen, unless you have needs. Well, I have a new poll that I'm going to put up here in a second, and by me, I mean Jan. But first, Alex, why don't you tell people where they can find you, what you have going on, all that good stuff?
You can find me at SuperGG Radio on Twitter. We superggradio.com for our reviews. We review games, our podcasts, all podcast services. We are every week we play 2 to 3 betas, demos, early access games, and talk about them with you guys to let you know, hey, this is what's hot right now. This is what is coming out, what you should look out for. Also, you have Lexi on the show quite often, and that I write for them. I do a here's the top 5 to 10 betas we played from the first half of the year, back half of the year, just because it's like there are so many good ones.
And that's over on Start Menu, right?
Yep, that's on Start Menu. Yeah, and just overall, just like, the podcast, superggradio.com and on all podcast services.
Excellent. All right, the new poll question. Do you shop for games at Best Buy? Yes or no? Suppose, Jan, maybe we should add there is no Best Buy by me. If you haven't done, if you already put it up, don't worry about it. We'll get to this question, though, on Monday on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, later today we'll be playing Phasmophobia for Unprofessional Fridays. Tune in for that. I'm going to be in VR. Yeah, too late. That's fine, Jan. I'm going to be in VR. Everyone else is going to be playing on their personal computers. So I expect to be very frightened, Alex. It's going to be...
That sounds horrifying.
Sounds terrifying. I'm not looking forward to it. So that'll happen later today. And then, of course, next week we'll be back with a bunch of new stuff and all those goodies. Until then, though, Alex, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you all for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
GG.
All right, we did it. We're still hot mic'd. Let's take a look around. Let's get raiding. Is there anyone on your Twitch list that's live that we can raid?
Let's see. No one on my list.
All right. Well, let's see who I have. Twitch.tv. It has phobia in the name. What? Nobody told me this game was really scary when I agreed to play it. How do you not know about Phasmophobia?
I tried to play Resident Evil 8 in VR, and that did not.
Oh, I could never.
Well, no, it actually got me very sick because